Hello everyone, you're welcome to this edition of The Insight. I am Bable Jonathan. Today we are going to analyze one of the recent incidents recorded in the crisis-stricken northwest and southwest regions of the Republic of Cameroon, an attack by gunmen at the St. Augustine College campus during the celebration of the 40th priesthood anniversary of Bishop George Nkwo of the Kumbu Diocese in the Bui Division Northwest region of the Republic of Cameroon. We will also take a look at the increasing use of explosive devices and sophisticated weapons by non-state armed groups within the context of the more than 4-year-long armed conflict in the northwest and southwest regions of the Republic of Cameroon. And of course, we'll continue looking at the way out of that crisis. I will also talk about how to take young people out of the chronic poverty, hardship, and suffering in the Republic of Cameroon today. It should be noted that youth unemployment in the country has been on the rise, and this remains one of the major problems affecting young people in the country. Stay with us and meet our guest in some few seconds. Our guest today, Musoke Lucas Lyonga, is a civil society leader, promoter of peace and community empowerment and transformation, investment expert, business consultant, professional career building advisor, brand ambassador, Canadian Action Coin Project, general coordinator, Excellence Union International Group. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you very much. I am happy to be once more at Equinox, and Equinox is truly a place to be. So I'm happy to be here once more.
Thank you. We begin right away in the Kumbu, in the Bui Division Northwest region of the Republic of Cameroon, where one of the recent incidents, as far as the Anglophone crisis is concerned, was recorded earlier this week. An attack by gunmen during the celebration of the 40th priesthood anniversary of Bishop George Nkwo of the Kumbu Diocese. Some gunmen stormed the ceremonial ground, even though they were quickly pushed by the security and defense forces. That attack and the exchange of bullets provoked panic, commotion, and fear on the ceremonial ground. What's your analysis of that incident?
Well, we are in a state of war. We are in a period of serious disobedience. We are in a period whereby a good number of Cameroonians are not happy. A good number of Cameroonian families are actually having things very difficult. So in a time like this, it's difficult to actually have things go smoothly, and especially in the heart of places in the northwest where you have a lot of separatist fighters that are found in most of the areas in the northwest and also in the southwest. So I think that the celebration is a good thing. 40th anniversary celebration is a good thing. It's not a bad thing. But you know that when people are not happy, then you are celebrating. They probably feel that you are you ignore their state of difficulties. They are not happy, and I think that is the main reason why these guys could not sit down and watch other people rejoicing, why they are not happy, why the northwest and southwest regions are being hit by the ongoing Anglophone crisis, which all of us know about. So I'm not saying that it's a good thing to come and attack, but I think when somebody is aggrieved, when somebody is angry, when somebody is bitter, when somebody is at war, the solution is to look for peace, is to seek for peace, is to look for a way to dialogue with the person so that the person should also come back to his or her normal state.
But Bishop George Nkwo of the Kumbu Diocese and the Roman Catholic Church in Cameroon as a whole, have been standing for justice, fighting for things to be settled as far as the Anglophone crisis, as far as the complaints, as far as the worries, the concerns of the inhabitants, of the population of the northwest and southwest regions of the country are concerned.
Yes, Bishop George Nkuo and the Catholic Church as a whole, I know they are there for peace. They love justice. They wish to see that things come back to normal. But in as much as things have not yet returned to normal, the persons that are aggrieved, the persons that are bitter, the separatist fighters are not satisfied. At least efforts have been made, even by the Catholic Church. We all know, we have seen it. Efforts have been made by bishops, archbishops, even envoys from the Vatican that have come to Cameroon. All this is to seek peace, is to seek for a solution. But as far as the issue is concerned, the solution has not yet come by. So these efforts are good, they are important, but they are not seen as sufficient because they have not led to the solution that is being sought by the separatist fighter, the solution of peace, the solution of being heard, the solution of dialogue, and to come to a conclusion or a solution to the ongoing crisis. So the issue is not whether these people are fighting for justice, they are for justice. The issue is, has the issue as the problem at stake been resolved? No. As long as the problem is still looming and pending, separatist fighters will continue to cause a lot of havoc as they have been causing. And it's not only the separatist fighter, even on the side of the military, we have seen a lot of videos, a lot of audio showing havoc caused even by the militaries. So a country, a nation is in trouble, a nation is in challenge. It is high time to keep hypocrisy aside and look squarely into this issue. Let this issue be brought to rest. Let the procedures that are relevant to bring this issue to rest be followed. Let us keep hypocrisy aside and face the challenge of the ongoing Anglophone crisis. It's a very serious issue and it's ramifying. Each day is ramifying, is coming up with other ramifications.
This particular incident occurred in an area, notably on the campus of St. Augustine College in the Kumbu, an area that was heavily guarded with security forces deployed around the area to ensure the security of the celebrants, to ensure the security of the bishops, to ensure the security especially of the administrative authorities who were there, including the governor of the Northwest Region, Adolphe Lafrique. But despite this military presence, despite this heavy military presence, the non-state fighters still came and launched an attack. What does that speak about the security measures and the persistence of those the fighters?
You see, security is important, but I wish to say that if there is high security, heavy militarized celebration, it means that there's a problem. I don't think that the separatists themselves will not be happy to celebrate with Bishop George Nkuo. Bishop George Nkuo is their father. Bishop George Nkuo has been a man of God and is still a man of God. I think that even the separatists will be happy to celebrate with their father. They'll be happy to celebrate with the priest. But there is a problem. So there is a side that is aggrieved. And this side is taking all daring measures against all odds, trying to disturb activities, trying to make their voices heard continually in different ways. I think that the issue is not whether that school is militarized or guarded or whatsoever, because that will just be done for a short time, and after that everybody will go, everybody will disperse. But what happens thereafter? There is a problem. There is an issue in Cameroon, and I think that it's high time for the church in Cameroon as a church, not just the Catholic Church, but all the churches, to sit up and face the authorities in place squarely. Let this issue be brought to rest. People are tired, and I think that celebrating 40 years of service is good, but you are celebrating under which atmosphere? You are celebrating under the atmosphere of fear. You are not celebrating with a good conscience as is normally supposed to be. You are celebrating under duress. You are celebrating not knowing what can happen at any time, as what happened there.
And before that incident, the previous day, there was a security meeting in Kumbu chaired by the governor of the Northwest region. And during that security meeting, the mayor of Kumbu, like you rightly indicated, said that the security climate in his area of command in the municipality was not favorable. That things were quite difficult for the inhabitants because of the uncertain security climate in which they were living. And he went further to say that 6 of the workers of the council were in captivity at the moment that meeting was holding. When you look at this climate of insecurity taking hold of the people, making life difficult of the people, what do you think about all the efforts that have been made here and there by the security and defense forces, by the administrative authorities, to ensure that the people live in peace, the people live in security?
Yes, I think that government is spending a lot of money in security measures, whereas such monies would have been used for other things. Because they say always solve a problem, go at the root cause of a problem and solve it. When you solve the problem, then the whole atmosphere, the whole environment is going to become naturally secured. You don't need a lot of military forces, you don't need a lot of armed forces to go and secure, to go and guard persons. Look at the cause, look at the problem. What is the cause? What is the root cause of all this? Tackle a problem at its root cause, resolve it, solve the problem. A lot of security meetings are holding everywhere, whereas an issue is at stake which can be tackled from the root cause and be brought to an end. Now, for a conflict of this nature, a crisis of this nature, a war of this nature to run for 4 years, going to 5 years today, it raises a lot of doubt. It raises a lot of doubt that a system cannot be able, up to 4 or 5 years today, to resolve an issue that has a solution. Why not put this issue to an end in the most appropriate way? The separatist fighters are aggrieved. The military has been doing a good job, but not enough, not sufficient for the people. The military is not everywhere. There are places where you don't find the military. Then why not look at the better solution so that the military will be doing other things rather than guarding people who are supposed to be carrying on their activities freely? So I think that it's high time for government to sit up and be able to tackle this issue from its root cause and destroy the root cause, bring a solution, and let all Cameroonians live in peace in all parts of this nation. And we are not so much comfortable to see military guarding us, heavily militarized areas. Why? When it is possible to bring a solution to the problem that has been rocking this nation for the past 4 to 5 years today.
That incident took place while the Minister of Defense, or the Minister Delegate at the Presidency in charge of Defense, and top military officials of the Republic were meeting in Yaoundé, evaluating the security situation of the country globally, and seeing exactly what to do, where and how. And of course, the most disturbing, the most pressing security problem in Cameroon now is the challenges, the security problems in the northwest and southwest regions of the country, besides the Boko Haram issue in the far north and the issue with Central African rebels in the east of the country. But the Anglophone crisis is there, and the security officials are meeting, strategizing, thinking, what should we do? And undertaking operations on the ground, Clean Bamenda, Operation Bui, Operation this and that, and so on, tracking down armed men, killing some of them, and so on. But the problem continues worsening. Does that mean that all the measures that have been taken, all the efforts of the soldiers on the ground are not yielding fruits, or the non-state armed groups have refused to have the solution?
Yes, the military has a function, and the military was not made to fight its citizens. It was made to fight foreign citizens that come to attack a nation or foreign enemies. But when you see a military or a meeting that is holding to safeguard its citizens against its own citizens, it's a problem. So we don't even need the military into this whole issue. Let me be very honest. A lot of money have been spent into the military which was not supposed to be spent. We don't need the military into it. This is a political issue. This is a crisis which is political, which has a political root from the days of independence and so on. It's a political problem. It's not a security problem. It's not a military problem. So you don't use military to resolve a political crisis like this one in Cameroon.
But those who are close to the President of the Republic will tell you that, or security expert will tell you that the situation has escalated, and there is a security component. There's an aspect that has to do with guns that have come into play now, and not only locally made guns, but now sophisticated weapons are also getting into play, and there's need to respond to the security component. This is what somebody like Professor Elvis Ngole will say concerning the use of the military on the ground in the two English-speaking regions to solve this crisis.
Yes,
as part of the solution.
Yes, I wish to say that a lot of money have been spent on security and military issues, which this nation was not supposed to spend. I think that I still wish to come back to this issue of having a priority. You don't need to allow a war, a crisis, to prolong. Because the more it prolongs, the more it ramifies, and other techniques, strategies, and tactics will come in. So the whole issue is there is an Anglophone problem in Cameroon, which the head of state himself has identified and has spoken about. But the ongoing crisis does not need the military. It needs the government to sit down with the separatist fighters in the best way possible with the mediator. Because when you have already gone into war, you need mediation. You need mediation in order to build confidence on both sides. So what is going on now is a matter of the government and the separatist fighters and their whole group to be able to have an avenue of mediation and dialogue so that they can talk this issue and bring this issue to an end. We don't need to see people who are rejoicing over this issue and they are rejoicing over missions and so on. They go left and right, stay for 2-3 months. They are paid huge sum of monies which was supposed to have been used for health facility, for road infrastructure, for educational facilities. All this money is going into what I call useless spending. I call it useless spending because the spending is not relevant, it's not realistic. It's a spending that could be prevented. And why do you spend when you can prevent that expenditure? So the government should prevent further spending by bringing this issue to an end. Let the government for once humble herself. Call the separatist fighters and the leaders of separatist fighters. Let there be a mediation that might hold either in Cameroon or elsewhere where it's comfortable and more secured for the separatist fighters, as they say that they are not comfortable to have any meeting in Cameroon. But there are other nations whose doors are open. For a government to go down on her knees to beg its people is not a bad thing. That's what we call good humility. It means that it comes a time where you treasure the lives of human beings more than government power pride. Because government power pride has crippled many nations. A government that has pride, a government that does not want to let go his or her ego, those things will continue to keep a nation in bondage. We have reached a time where the government needs to understand, and the government probably understands very well, that it is no longer the military. We don't need the military. We need dialogue. We need mediation with reliable and trustworthy partners to mediate on this issue. Let the issue be brought to rest. Cameroonians are tired of this situation. A lot of families have lost their loved ones. A lot of villages have lost a lot. People have migrated. People have moved to other places. They have left their properties. We are no longer happy with the situation. We are tired about the situation, and let the government sit up and bring this issue to an end.
All right, we're going to go to the newsstands now, and Immaculate Fogwe is going to tell us what the newspapers reported this week, the press review.
The Horizon exclaims, another bloody weekend in the Northwest and Southwest regions. The Garden Post reports, separatist fighters attack a military post in Galim, West region, killing 4 soldiers. In-depth news says, Galim killings highlights worsening Anglophone crisis. The Star, Dr. Simon Munzu, during an exclusive interview on the Anglophone crisis, says separatists should give up illusion of restoring independence. The Garden Post, during a strategic meeting with arms dealers, Minat boss Paula Tanganji goes tough on illegal proliferation and circulation of firearms in the country. Another edition of the Garden Post reports, angry population of Fumbot set the courthouse ablaze following the death of an inmate. The Voice Weekender, Minister Paula Tanganji approves 11 new pro-regime political parties. The Voice questions if Cameroon will break father to son succession rule at the presidency. Even regional council actors cry out as nothing has been done since their installation. The Garden Post exclaims, Cameroon's first Anglophone Prime Minister, Achidi Achu, dies. Municipal updates, iconic anti-corruption figure, Chief Mbile, dies. The Era Tribune, government nips imminent strike by network of Cameroonian media proprietors. Cameroon Insider, COVID-19 reshaping work habits.
Thank you, Immaculate Fogwe, for the press review. The crisis has been going on for close to 5 years today, and there are new aspects, new techniques, like you indicated, coming into play. Now there is an increasing use of explosive devices and sophisticated weapons by the non-state armed groups in those 2 regions. What explains this shift towards explosive devices that are now increasingly being used, that are exploding here and there, maiming persons, killing persons, destroying properties?
I wish to say that, as I said from the onset, that when you keep a crisis, a problem, a war to prolong, it ramifies. It develops other tricks, tactics, strategies in order for the parties to be more satisfied with what they are doing. The separatist fighters started with virtually nothing. Very soon, they picked up guns. Today, we are hearing about explosive and many other things that are happening, kidnappings and the rest that are happening everywhere. It did not start like that. And many more things might happen in the future, which we cannot even foresee now, if this thing is not brought to rest, if this thing is not brought to an end. Because when people are aggrieved and can take this grievance up to this level of 4 or 5 years, it's not a joke. In the near future, they will not relent. So it is high time to tackle this issue and bring it to rest and bring it to an end. It has a solution. Let the solution be put in place. Why spend money? Why spend time? Why spend energy on what could be resolved within a twinkle of an eye and things come back to normal? The rebuilding and the reconstruction which is being spoken about can now take place under a serene atmosphere, a good atmosphere, where there will not be fear, there will not be anything, because the parties have come to an agreement. And I think we have seen this in history. Many nations have had this. We have seen rebels sat down with a government and they resolve issues. But these ones, I don't want to call them rebels, as they are being called separatists. They are being called independentists. Those are people who wish to become independent. That is how they call themselves. Which means that they have a problem, they have a target, they have a goal, they have an objective. But again, it's a matter of two sides, people sitting down and coming to the terms of agreement which is going to bring this issue to an end. Let Cameroonians have rest and peace. You cannot bring peace where there are military people everywhere with big guns and citizens are afraid of such guns and so on. That is not peace. That is not peace. Peace is when there is an agreement and this issue is brought to an end. That is when peace is going to return to this nation. And I believe that it is possible to make peace in this nation again. If government wish, they should take the measures, take the steps that are necessary, which many foreign bodies, many foreign organizations, good organizations have given proposals. Other nations have given a lot of proposals. Even the United Nations has spoken. Other organizations have spoken. Individuals of good faith and goodwill have spoken. The church itself has spoken. Then what do you want again? So the government should at least listen to that which has been spoken and put it into practice or implement it.
The calls are coming from almost everywhere, like you rightly indicated, from individuals, from institutions, from other nations, and so on. But they come together, so to speak, or the meeting, the dialogue between the warring parties seems not to be coming. The two parties seems to be adamant at the two extremes. Nobody willing to come closer to the center. We have seen rebels sitting on the same table with other government authorities to discuss, to settle crises in other African nations before. But this seems not to be happening in Cameroon. What is hindering that?
Yes, what is hindering this whole issue is the government. The government is a hindrance to this whole issue because it is the government that has the power to facilitate a dialogue. You know, the separatists cannot initiate a dialogue. They can only give their proposals onto what they wish that dialogue should look like. It's the government, because the separatists, if you look at the history of this crisis, if you look at the unfolding of this crisis, you realize that the separatists have portrayed willingness most of the times. If you even follow news, you realize that the separatists have shown willingness. But their point of interest has been that they wish that this dialogue be mediated, let there be a mediator, and let it hold in a secured place out of the nation.
Government also says that it has demonstrated political will, that the head of state has shown that he can go to whatever length to solve this problem. And he convened a dialogue, and the authorities have been saying that we invited the separatist leaders, those who are out of the country, and so on, but they didn't come.
No, you cannot invite the separatist leaders in a country where you have, first of all, the main leaders of this struggle, of this fight, are in jail. They were picked up out of the nation and brought into Cameroon, and they are in jail. Then how can you think that you tell another person to come back to that same nation where their friends are in jail? If peradventure their friends were released, they will say that, okay, that is goodwill by the government. Our friends have been released, so we can have a bit of trust. But nevertheless, in conflict resolution, when things have gone to a certain level, mediation is always done in a neutral ground. Mediation is done in a neutral ground. And this is the situation now in Cameroon. Mediation can only be done in a neutral ground now, which means that the government has to accept the fact that it treasures her citizens. It treasures all Cameroonians. And for that reason, government has to overcome governmental pride, governmental ego, and be able to humble herself in a neutral ground to talk and take note that even those in prison, the main leaders that are in prison, they are supposed to be part of the dialogue. So I think that the government knows what to do. Those ones that are in jail, they are supposed to be part of the dialogue. The dialogue will be difficult to take place in Cameroon because the separatists have already had in their mind that there is bad faith in the part of the government who is keeping the initial leaders in prison. So it can only take place now in a neutral ground where there is trust from the side of the separatists that are more vulnerable than the government. So the government has to accept a neutral ground of mediation, and let a trustworthy mediation party, either nations forming a coalition, to come into this and help Cameroon. This can only be done in a neutral ground, in a much more secured and law-abiding ground, where the separatists know that their lives will not be at stake. The separatist leaders will know that their lives will not be at stake. They have confidence to be able to express their mind in such a place and will not be afraid of being arrested thereafter, because they are more susceptible to arrest than the government. You cannot arrest a government. This is known, but you can arrest rebels, you can arrest separatists, you can arrest those who don't have legal power yet to operate. They can be arrested. So I think that let us not pretend, let the government not pretend, let the government be honest. All of us Cameroonians, we are seeing it. Everybody is saying it every day. There is need for a neutral ground of mediation. Let the separatist leaders come and the government comes. It is thereafter, if the separatists cannot abide by the outcome, that is when now people will have grounds against the separatists, because it's difficult to talk against the separatists now, because that forum has not, that platform has not been created for them to come. Then you see the aftermath of that platform. That is when people will be able to hold them. You say, no, but dialogue took place, mediation took place. What are you guys still doing like this? But now it's difficult, because they say they are still claiming that they want dialogue, they want mediation. Let that take place, and they have made it clear they don't want it in Cameroon. They want it in a neutral country where their security is very much guaranteed.
Now, negotiation, dialogue, discussion. What will be the best option here? Because some of those who have been fighting are saying that it should be a negotiated settlement and nothing less than that.
Yes, no. Actually, negotiations were made in Bamenda when this thing started. There was a negotiation between the lawyers and the teachers with the government. That was a negotiation which was done. But the terms of the negotiation, again, many people are saying that, as we all see, the terms were not implemented. Even till date, those terms that were agreed, there were some sort of 27 points or so. We have not seen those points implemented.
The discussions made a deadlock.
Yes, that negotiation.
Some of the points have been implemented with some measures that have been taken here and there. The creation of the common law bench in the Supreme Court, the common law department in the National School of Administration and Magistracy, and some other measures described by some critics like as cosmetic measures.
No, those are cosmetic measures, because the real issue has not been tackled. You don't go and give little things and you call it measures. No, tackle the real thing from the root. When you tackle it, all those other things will become natural. You don't need to start climbing a tree from the branches. Climb from the trunk and go up. So don't start climbing from the branches. So that is the whole issue. Let the government take the bold step for a table of dialogue with a mediator that both sides have to, because when there is mediation, both sides have to agree on the party mediating. They must have trust in the party, so that you cannot bring a biased mediator to come and mediate between two persons. No, there must be a trustworthy mediator in this situation. The mediator must be trustworthy, so that both sides will agree on whether they will accept the outcome of the mediation in this situation now. And I think that the person they want to take the second step now is the separatist fighters have shown all evidence, proof that they have taken a step towards accepting mediation. Now it is the government to say, okay, we will mediate. Let us sit down as fellow citizens and talk about our nation. But in a neutral ground, because people are already skeptical and not sure of their lives, because one, the first set of leaders are behind bars, are in jail, have been imprisoned. So you cannot tell me that another set of leaders will freely come sure how are they sure that they too could not be arrested? So it's a probability. So let them go into a neutral ground where the probability for them to be arrested is zero.
We're going to take some interviews right now, and we'll be back in some few minutes. Interviews of the week.
I've been going through a lot of difficulties. The separatists have made life unbearable to our population. As I speak, I have some of my workers in the bush that were taken just 4 days ago, 6 of them. And you can bear with me that living under this kind of circumstances is not easy. You cannot move out of town. You are moving somewhere, you look left, you look right. This kind of life is very, very unpleasant.
Globally speaking, from all the reports that have been handed over to me by the senior division officer, the situation is globally under the control of the administrative authorities and the security services. The population are more and more collaborating with the administration and the security services. Most of the people, some of the people who have gone IDP elsewhere are coming back, even if despite all those good achievements, we are still facing some difficulties, some security challenges and atrocities, even using new type of ammunitions. But globally speaking, the security services are mastering the situation in all the subdivision of Bui division.
Before, the government knew that they were going to crack them down using their military, but that method has not worked. And every time the government has tried to using a wrong procedure, it has only given the boys a room to evolve. It is we, the Cameroonians, that have failed to manage this crisis when it began. We felt that we can always use military in response and to achieve what the central government in this country wants, but it has not been the case. And I would still say that the government has been very insensitive, knowing all what has been happening around Africa, especially in neighboring Nigeria, Chad, as we saw, that insecurity has only been increasing in Africa. And when this issue began in 2016, the government would have known and would have quelled down this issue before it evolved to where we are today. So these boys, per my analysis, I've always made, the crisis is only going to increase and the insecurities are only going to increase. It will never curb down if the government do not directly address the root core of this problem and get into an all-inclusive dialogue to resolve the problem genuinely for the interest of the people of this nation.
The government is determined to bring long-lasting peace in this division and the whole region. No stone will be left unturned to bring back normalcy to Bui division, foremost to the city of Kumbu. The pacification effort of the administrative authorities, the operation to secure the division and the whole region that I have long started will continue and will be increased to face the present situation.
Jesus Christ tells us he's the way, the truth, and the life. And we need to be able to face the truth as it is. We need to be able to look at each other and call you out. This is my brother, this is my sister. My celebration in the heart of this reassures me that it is possible. I know that it is possible if only we can break down the pride and uplift love for truth, for justice, and for care for one another.
The bishop is exercising his ministry, especially as chief shepherd of the Diocese of Kumbu in these difficult times. And we are witnesses to the fact that he is close to his sheep, he is standing near to his sheep, and he is ready to die for his sheep. And this is a very, very big testimony to the gospel message which is preaching to the people and which is giving out to the world.
This council, the doors of this council have been shut down for a while because of the crisis that we all know. Projects can only be realized if there is peace. This process can only be realized if our brothers and sisters who are in the bushes in Ekona, Muyuka, Munyenge come out and give us an helping hand so that we, as a team, just as we were doing before, ensure that these projects are being realized.
About 3 years, this council penalized the population. Where you can go and renew a document and make an ID card. You cannot go to Boya.
I think in Fako Division, Moyoka is chief. We have had a fair share of that crisis, and it dealt with us in our accounts. We had budgeted a billion plus about 1,338 million, but we were able to only realize 500 and a few million.
As a journalist, we are very disappointed as far as the treatment gained by journalists in our country. We are calling on the public, on the government to do something. We are calling on the government to emphasize on protecting journalists in this country, because we are social actors, we are partners, we are not opponents, we are not in a political field. We are not here to collect the information and share with the public.
You listen to the governor of the Northwest Region, Adolphe Lele-Lafrique, who was responding to the mayor of Kumbu in that security meeting which we talked about earlier, and he reiterated what other authorities have been saying, that the situation is globally under the control of the administration and security forces. Is that reassuring?
I wish to seriously applaud the temperamental approach of the governor of the Northwest Region. I think since this crisis started, we have seen the governor of the Northwest Region with a humble temperament and a humble approach, even though he has not been perfect. I think that we need men like that who have a calm, temperamental approach, an approach which looks very friendly, even though working seriously with the government and for the good will of Cameroonians. And I think that the governor of the Northwest Region has been doing a lot to see into it that this issue should be brought to rest. But the governor of the Northwest Region does not have what it takes. He is limited. He is representing the state. He is representing the head of state. So his powers are limited. His area of jurisdiction is limited. He cannot make certain decisions. Decisions come from the central body that leads the nation. So, but I wish to commend this, to be very honest. I commend the temperamental approach of the governor of the Northwest Region, who has been so calm and friendly and let me use the word professional in this approach. But nevertheless, there have also been a lot of lapses, especially when it has to do with the involvement of the military in many situations where the military has not acted as the people would have expected. Now, I wish to say this: let us not leave the true issue and chase shadows. Many people have interest in this war, in this crisis, in this situation. Many people are benefiting from this crisis, whereas the blood of many have been shed. So I just wish to propose strongly that let the quick solution of this crisis be looked up, because there will likely be much more security meetings in the future, much more security meetings held left and right, but those security meetings don't bring any solution. They don't bring any solution. The real solution is supposed to come from the state. It's supposed to come from the government. It's supposed to come from the head of state. Willingness for dialogue. I'm not talking about what took place here called the Major National Dialogue that took place in Cameroon. I think that was just a meeting of people coming together to give ideas. But that is not a dialogue. That one is known clearly because the third party was not there. The third party is supposed to be present and they're supposed to be a mediator in that situation. So I think that all Cameroonians are waiting to see this dialogue with goodwill mediators to handle this issue. The outcome of that dialogue is going to define a lot of things as far as Cameroon is concerned.
Right. Out of the northwest and southwest regions, and looking at the country globally, and more particularly young people who are today gripped in their vast majority by what is qualified as chronic poverty, hardship, and misery. What is the solution to this problem? How to take these young people out of poverty and misery?
I wish to say that many people will be surprised the way I'm going to answer this question, because I'm not going to look at the government. Many people have spoken about the government, but my approach to solving youth poverty solution doesn't have anything to do with the government. The government has its responsibility, and when the government fails in its responsibility, people are supposed to take upon themselves their responsibility to solve their problem. That is what the Singaporean youths did. That is what the youths in Ghana, in Nigeria, in South Africa, and many other nations did. They did not look onto their government. They look onto themselves and the available solutions and the available platforms, the available avenues to solve their poverty. So I want to look at the self-poverty solution approach. That is the model I want to take, because governmental models have not been able to solve problems, especially in Africa, because government has its interest. Its interest is to stay in power. That one has to be known clearly.
Tell us about that individual approach.
Yes. Please, I want everybody to listen to me what I'm trying to say here today. You see, for long, young people have been reliant on the government. Young people have relied on education. Young people have relied on the nation in which they live. But I want to give people a very simple solution today that has worked everywhere. Now, there's what we call personal development plan. I want every young man to listen to me very well. Personal development plan. You see, many young people don't have this. Most don't have what we call a personal development plan. Now, a personal development plan is a development plan that you start using when you are still in secondary school. You already draw the plan of how you are going to succeed in life. You can even draw it up to 10 years. And you know the track that you are going to use in order to develop yourself and become useful to yourself and to your community. In that development plan, the government is not found inside. The government is not one of the elements of that development plan. But you see, the problem which we have in Cameroon is that the development plan of youth has the government inside. And since the government cannot solve the problems that the youths have, that is why most youths have failed. So a personal development plan, for example, let me tell people a personal development plan which I had. I had a personal development plan to read about 2,000 books in 15 years. And I've been able to achieve that. I've read more than 2,000 books. I mean relevant books to build on my life, so that I don't rely on government. I don't rely on systems. But I rely on the fact that I have built my life on that which is my own vision. In that, because everybody has his own vision. So you draw your personal development plan according to your vision. For example, a journalist may have a personal development plan to become a great media practitioner, a great communicator, whatsoever which is in his domain. He draws his personal development plan for about 10 years and build his life towards that. Set goals, have an objective. But most youths don't have this at the base. They were not told. But I think that today you have been told, and this is for free. So that you should understand that you don't build your life based on the availabilities around you. You build your life based on what you wish to get. Go in for them, go where they are found, get those things. For example, I read about 6 to 10 books every month. These many youths cannot understand. Both e-books and hard copies of books. I read and study relevant material to build my life. So I know where to go to when I wish and at what time. I know what to do to get what I need to get the right way. the right approach, they're using the right strategy. Now, the youth which we have in Cameroon today don't have this. No. It's zero. No. Now, they rely on education. They rely on going to school. Failing to understand that when you go to school, you have just about 5% of what you need to become a useful human being. As when you go to school, even up to PhD level, you receive just about 5% of what you need to become a useful human being. We have so many PhD holders that are not useful human beings. They are not, but they have PhDs, but they are not useful. So to become useful, 95% of the work has to be done by you. And that is what I talk about, a personal development plan.
No, this is very interesting because, it's very easy to find young people, so the students in the high school, in secondary school, and when you ask this question, if you gather about 10 young people, you ask them, each of them the question, what do you want to become in future? There will be no clear answer from about 8 or 9 of them. There will be no clear answer like, I want to become a medical doctor. I'm looking forward to become a journalist. Working towards becoming an engineer. This answer is often very difficult to come by. What are you going to study in the university? The answer is not always forthcoming. Where is the problem here? Is it an issue of orientation? Is it a problem with parents in the house, or what exactly, or the individuals themselves?
Yes, the greatest problem is the problem of laziness. I got my secret from my own research. A good number of young people are very lazy. Now, when you are going to school, you're supposed to do a lot of research on your own from secondary school. If you wish to follow a career path, you start knowing that career path from secondary school. And you do a lot of research in that area on your own. This will never be given to you in any class, right up to PhD. This will never be given to you. So that you know what it takes. Take note that you can become a medical doctor, but you are a useless medical doctor. Now, what does it take to become a useful medical doctor for a community? All these things are found in materials, publications, literature, books, in the internet, and so on. And you must take upon yourself, your time, your energy, your resources, to go for this material and to go for this knowledge yourself. It will never be given to you anywhere in any classroom. Even in Harvard University, you will not find this. You will not find this. And this is one of the secrets. That's why I say that I wish that this program should solve the problem of Cameroonian youth. Let me say this. Not every youth is supposed to go to the university. Not every youth. There are youth whose vision does not warrant them to go to a university. For example, if you want to become a good beautician, when you have, for example, your advanced level, and you know that you want to become a good beautician, for example, you pursue the route to become a beautician. You don't need to go and waste 3 years in the university to become a good beautician. You pursue your career path immediately after your advanced level, for example. And what does it take to become a beautician? You check. And you go in for it. By 5 years, you are an expert beautician. And you will be financially independent. There is a deception of going to the university. There is a deception. Not everybody should go to the university, but at least people should go to the university. According or depending on their career path. There are some career paths that you don't need to go and waste 3 years. That 3 years when you invested in that career path, before your peers come out from the university, you are already a giant in your career. But many young people are not oriented, and because they are not oriented, they don't also go for the knowledge themselves to know what it takes, what it entails. So I'm giving you people a sacred youth. A good number of you are crying, I've gone to university and studied. Please, you have gathered just about 5% of the knowledge you need to make you to become useful, even with your PhD in your hand.
Some of those who went to professional schools, not to universities, but to professional schools, have ended up doing other menial jobs around, having the certificate, having the knowledge, but not being able to be financially viable and independent, as you indicated. Where's the problem?
The problem is the issue is not to go to a professional school. And by the way, most of the schools we call professional schools in Cameroon, they are just there by name. They are not professional in the real sense of professionalism. So to become a professional, you have to study. This may take you about 5 years to know what it means to become a professional. Now, the problem with those type of professionals who truly are not yet professionals, but they have a name because they have a paper showing that they are coming out from a professional school. The problem is this: they don't know what it means to become a professional in that field of studies. Mr. Babila, this is a problem. They just think that being professional means that you go to that school, you have a certificate. No. To become a professional in a field, it takes more than that. And you have to go for that knowledge on your own. You have a lot of young professionals in Japan and Europe who are high creators. They are innovators. So if you want to become a professional, to be copying and pasting, to be doing what others have been doing, then you are not a professional. You are supposed to be a creative person, an innovative person. That is what is going to add value to you. And you are going to become different. Because when you go to a professional school and you are the same, like any other person who have gone to that professional school, then you are useless. Because what you wish to do, other people are already doing it. But you must study what it means to become a professional with a distinction. And these are found in many books that you will not see in your career pathway. You must go for those books yourself. Read them, know what others did to become useful professionals. And when you apply it to your knowledge and to the paper you receive, many will doubt where this one is coming from. They do not know the extra sleepless night that you had.
You have to go
studying and building up your career according to your career development plan. I make this point again clear. Career development plan.
You have to go the extra mile.
You have to go the extra mile. And it is costly to go the extra mile.
You have to pay the price.
You have to pay the price to go the extra mile. Many have not even started. With their 5% knowledge, they say they are unemployed. Let me tell you the truth. Many Cameroonians are not unemployed. They are not qualified even to be employed in the first place. They are not qualified in the field in which they claim to be professionals. They are not even qualified there. So they are just hanging in between indecision and laziness. And I hope that they have a personal development plan and follow it. It may take the next 5 years, but they are going to come out and they are going to be very useful to this nation, Cameroon. Let's not blame the government. The government does not have any problem. The government has put in place that which they can put in place. You go an extra mile and get that which you need. The internet has more than enough information that you need to build your career the way that you desire it to be.
Now, even though others think that the government, of course, cannot employ everybody, but some are saying that the government has not put in place the enabling environment for young people to be able to be useful to themselves and to the nation. But let's go back to square one, because it's important. You said that young people should have a development plan right from secondary school. Now, how to identify the area in which you will be potentially useful? How to identify that area? How to identify your calling, so to speak?
Yes, let me say one of the things that helped me in life, and this is the truth about everything. When you are going up to secondary school, say from 5, you already have a passion in mind that you will become this. But you may not know how to go about it. But at Form 5, you cannot be at Form 5 and you don't know what you wish to become in life. Then you have a problem. You have a fundamental problem. So that at that stage of Form 5, you already know what you wish to become. So you put on your personal development plan already in place. But many have not been taught this. People don't know this. So they study haphazardly up to PhD, haphazardly. And you are now searching for jobs from the government up to the level of PhD. These are things that are unheard of elsewhere. So the problem is this. The problem is this. You should have a passion at least at the level of Form 5. And pursue that passion, because your passion is that which is you. Don't go and jump into other things, because people jump into other things. And that is why they fail. But when you have a passion, build that passion, follow that line of your passion and build your career. You cannot become everything. You should become something. And that thing should be strategic. That thing should be specific. Even though you might be doing other things, but you have a specific area. For example, we'll be starting what we call the Cameroonian mentorship plan for youth. The Cameroonian mentorship plan for youth is to help youth about all what I'm saying here like this.
At the level of the Excellence Union.
At the level of the Excellence Union International Group. We are starting it this same year. By July, we are starting the Cameroonian Youth mentorship program. We will be able to mentor even 100 million youths, not only in Cameroon but in Africa. So that we give youths that which they need. They don't need to look on to government. Government has more than enough that is weighing her, and she cannot even meet up with her own needs. Then you are still adding another burden again on that same government? No. Time has passed for such things because a good number of youths don't know. For example, the internet. The internet has more than 90% of what you need to become a useful person. Is the government holding the internet from us? No. But laziness does not make us to do research in the area in which we wish to become experts, specialists, and outstanding. We think that is the house. The government will not come to your room to study for you. The government will not come to your room to do research for you. The government will not come to your room to be able to tell you your career path. That is not the job of the government. The government has more strategic issues to handle in the mega and macro economic level. You should handle those micro things yourself and leave the government to handle the macro.
What about the idea that the whole educational system in Cameroon should be brought to a halt and the whole thing revised and a switch from theory to practical, from concentrating more on theory to giving people what they need to be useful, giving people the tools that they need to be employable, the tools that they need to be useful to companies, to the society in which they belong, to their nation.
Now, China changed 70% of the universities to technical science inclined universities. But let me say something which the 21st century youth should understand. That African governments made an error from the word go. And it will take a lot of time to correct that error. We have an educational system which is servant-based, which means that it prepares us to become servants. For example, you are prepared to
job seekers.
Yeah, to be job seekers. You are prepared to serve in a company rather than you creating your own company. But elsewhere, they prepare you to create companies and employ people to work. Now, Mr. Popular Jonathan, it takes a lot of money, resources, and training of new professionals. Because the professors and the doctors that we have today, let me tell you the truth, the type of educational system we are talking about, a good number of them will become obsolete. They will not be useful in that system that we are talking about. So it takes time to start building from the base, the younger ones right up to the level of professorship. In as much as some doctors and professors are important, but they lack a lot with the type of educational system that many people are proposing. Then they say they will become obsolete, they will not have jobs because they will not fit into that context.
They need to update.
So government needs to start from the base, start building. Then as it is going up, it's changing. Then it takes time before it reaches the university level now, and that system is put in place. That is why you see for the past years they have been talking about professionalizing higher educational system. But has it worked? No. That song has been sung for so many years, but it has not actually worked because that is not the method. You don't start professionalizing from above. You start professionalizing from below. The people grow without professional knowledge and goes up. But you cannot claim that you are professionalizing from above.
Right. Thanks a lot for those very interesting insights. Musoke Lucas Lyonga, civil society leader, promoter of peace and community empowerment and transformation, investment expert, business consultant, professional career building advisor, and of course brand ambassador, Canadian Action Corps and Project, general coordinator, Excellence Union International Group. Before we go in some few seconds, tell us something about this Canadian Action Coin Project. What is it all about?
Okay, the Canadian Action Coin Project is a platform, it's a business started by a Canadian engineer who has been an engineer in his profession for over 28 years. Nick Molly is the one that launched this Canadian Action Coin Project, which a lot of billions of dollars have been invested in the project. And the project is still in its young stage, is growing. So the project has to do with bringing all businesses in the world into one platform, and they will be trading using what we call the Action Coin. They will be trading with the Action Coin. So as I'm talking now, most of the hotels in Cameroon are already using the facility. You can advertise in the facility, you can purchase from any part of the world with the facility, and they have what we call the Action Coin. The Action Coin is the currency that is used on that platform in order to carry on the activity. The good thing is that the currency is convertible to dollars and other currencies in the world. But it's a platform that is working towards becoming one of the largest business platforms in the world. That is the vision. If you check the vision, is moving towards becoming that. So we are working in Cameroon under that project. I wish to say that it's a very giant project that Cameroonians can benefit from it by using one of the outlets, because it has outlets of advertisement, of placing your business online in that platform, and people view your business all over the world or your services, and they can request for your services all over the world, any part of the world at any time, and you can sell and make a lot of profits and business and money and help your nation. But the project is still growing. Very soon it's going to become an explosive. It's going to become an explosion in the whole world. It's penetrating Europe, America, and other parts of the world. The business is there.
Thanks so much for your time. And that's it for this edition of The Insight. Thanks so much for staying with us.